You ever witness something so wild, so jaw-droppingly chaotic, that you almost can't believe it's real? That's exactly what happened in the WNBA this season, when one brutal play turned into a full-blown morality saga, complete with villain, a victim, and yes, some straight-up sports karma that fans gasping in disbelief. Let's set the scene. The Phoenix Mercury are locked in a heated matchup. Tensions are running high.
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
Energy's electric. And then it happens. Sophie Cunningham, a fierce competitor, known for her hustle, grit, and no BS attitude, goes down. Hard. She clutches her knee, the pain obvious, and the arena goes quiet. You could hear a pin drop, except for one thing. Bria Hartley, smirking. Yep, a viral image caught Hartley walking away. The tiniest smirk on her face. And just like that, what could have been brushed off as a standard in-game collision became a full-blown scandal. Fans went into overdrive. Was it on purpose? Was it dirty? Why was she smiling? Now, let's not pretend Hartley doesn't have a history. She's no stranger to aggressive plays. You know the type. Intense, physical, constantly walking that line between hard-nosed competitor and what the hell was that? So when the smirk made its rounds on social media, the narrative basically wrote itself. Bria Hartley, WNBA's new villain. And look, maybe the smirk wasn't malicious. Maybe it was shock. Maybe it was nerves. But in sports, perception is everything. And that one moment, frozen in time, told a story louder than any post-game interview ever could. Meanwhile, Sophie Cunningham's injury turned out to be a torn MCL, season-ending. Just like that, one of the league's toughest players was sidelined, gone for the year. No dramatic comeback, no Cinderella arc, just surgery, rehab, and the long, lonely road of recovery. And how did Cunningham respond? Not with fire, not with revenge, not with drama. She could have flamed Hartley publicly, added fuel to the fan outrage, turned this into an all-out war. But instead, she took the high road. She posted about staying positive, thanked her fans, even made a point to say she didn't think the play was intentional. And that's when the story really started to shift. Because now, this wasn't just about an injury. This was about who these players are and how they choose to carry themselves in moments of adversity. Cunningham came off like a warrior, a pro, a role model, someone who just wanted to focus on healing and playing the game right. But Hartley? Well, she didn't exactly help herself. In the days that followed, fans started digging. Old plays, questionable fouls, past texts. A pattern started emerging, and with every clip that surfaced, every moment of eyebrow-raising contact, the narrative hardened. Bria Hartley wasn't just aggressive. She was dangerous. And then, because the sports gods are nothing if not poetic, karma came knocking. Weeks later, during a practice, Hartley went down with season-ending knee injury of her own. No contact, no opponent, just a bad step, and an even worse twist. It was brutal, unfortunate, and yet you could practically feel the internet pause. Wait, what? The timing, the symmetry, the eerie full-circle nature of it all. Sophie Cunningham gets injured in a collision with Hartley. Hartley smirks. Hartley gets injured weeks later. The reactions wrote themselves. Instant karma. Poetic justice. The basketball gods don't play. Look, no one wants a player to get hurt. But let's be honest. Sports fans love a narrative. And this one, it had it all. Conflict, suspense, a fall from grace, and a cosmic twist ending that could rival any Netflix drama. And through it all, the WNBA, pretty quiet, which was kind of the problem. Because this wasn't just about two players. This was about officiating, about player safety, about the league's refusal to step in when tensions bubbled too high. People started asking questions. Why wasn't Hartley disciplined? Why didn't the league review the play more seriously? Would this have played out differently if Cunningham had reacted less gracefully? If she'd gone full scorched earth? And suddenly, this wasn't just a story about two knees. It was a story about credibility. Because the fans, They were watching. And when they feel like justice isn't being served on the court, they look for it in the universe. Hence the karma obsession. The truth is, when institutions fail to hold people accountable, people turn to narrative justice. We crave balance. We need it to make sense. So Hartley's injury became more than just a personal setback. It became a moment of reckoning. And the discourse? Absolutely relentless. On one side, defenders of Hartley say it was all bad luck, that injuries happen, that fans are going too far. On the other side, the she had it coming crowd, convinced this was basketball karma in its purest form. And somewhere in the middle, Sophie Cunningham, still quiet, still healing, still choosing not to throw shade, which honestly might be the most powerful move of all. Because here's what this saga really showed us. Grace is louder than ego. Dignity travels further than drama. And sometimes, the person who refuses to feed the controversy becomes the one who wins the war. Sophie became a symbol of strength, resilience, class. She didn't need a media tour. She didn't need to clap back. She let her silence speak louder than any headline. Hartley, on the other hand, now has a reputation that may follow her for the rest of her career. Fair or not, the court of public opinion is ruthless. And that smirk? It's not going anywhere. But maybe the most important takeaway here isn't about either of them. Maybe it's about the league itself. Because when fans see repeated moments like this, violent plays, controversial non-calls, inconsistent punishments, they start losing faith. They start questioning the product. And in a league trying to grow, to push for legitimacy, that is the kiss of death. This wasn't just a dramatic footnote in the season. It was a siren, a big, flashing red warning light. Fix the officiating. Protect the players. Take these moments seriously before they become legacies instead of lessons. And for the love of everything sacred, don't let perception be the only form of justice. Because the next time a player goes down, the next time a smirk goes viral, fans won't just be watching the replay. They'll be watching you. So here's the final irony. 2 players, 2 knees, 1 controversy, 1 silent league office. And a whole lot of fans wondering if, in the WNBA, justice only happens when the universe steps in. 1 player goes down in a collision. Another walks away, smiling or smirking, depending on who you ask. The league stays silent. And the fans? Oh, the fans do what fans do best. They take receipts, dig up footage, and build a narrative so tight it might as well be courtroom ready. Bria Hartley didn't just injure Sophie Cunningham. She fractured the illusion that everything's under control. Because the story, it went beyond the hardwood. It became personal. It became spiritual. We weren't watching basketball anymore. We were watching morality play unfold in real time. Let's be honest. There's a difference between physical and reckless. Basketball is a contact sport, sure, but there's an unspoken code among athletes. You play hard, but you play fair. You get in people's faces, but you don't try to take someone out. And whether it was intentional or not, Bria Hartley's play that night crossed a line for a lot of people. And then that photo, that damn photo, made everything worse. Because perception is reality. And the perception was this. Bria Hartley sent a player crashing to the floor, potentially ruining her season, and walked away with a grin on her face. That's all it took. No caption, no comment, just a frame, frozen in time, that said, "I don't care." And look, maybe it wasn't like that. Maybe it was a nervous smile or a weird in-the-moment facial expression. But fans didn't want nuance. They wanted someone to blame. So Bria Hartley got cast as the villain. Meanwhile, Sophie Cunningham, now stuck in a brace and crutches, refused to play into the drama. And that made everything even more intense. Because when someone gets wronged and they don't retaliate, it only fuels the outrage. Cunningham could have gone scorched earth. She didn't. She posted a statement that was calm, thoughtful, and somehow still more powerful than any dragging on Twitter. She said she didn't believe it was malicious. She thanked her fans. She focused on recovery. And the people loved her for it. In a league where personalities can sometimes feel overly manicured, Cunningham felt real. Like the kind of player who gets knocked down, pops back up, eventually, and keeps it moving. She didn't need to clap back. She was a clapback. Grace under fire is rare, and when it happens, it echoes. But just when things started to die down, just when the story was slipping off the front page, boom, the basketball god struck again. Bria Hartley, season-ending knee injury. In practice, no opponent, no collision, just a wrong step and a twist. And suddenly she's the one out for the year. It was instant karma fuel. You could hear the collective gasp on social media. People didn't even wait for the news outlets to break it. They were already in the quote tweets, saying what half the fan base was already thinking. This is karma. This is what happens when you play dirty. Tell me the universe isn't watching. And listen, no one celebrates injury, but the sheer poetry of it was impossible to ignore. It felt biblical. You can't write this stuff. One player allegedly injures another and smiles. That player then suffers the same fate, just weeks later. It was a kind of narrative symmetry that sports fans live for and that the league absolutely hates. Because the WNBA doesn't want this kind of drama in the spotlight. Not when it's still fighting for airtime. Not when it's still clawing for respect and equal coverage. But what they don't seem to understand is that this messy, dramatic, emotionally charged storyline is exactly what draws people in. Fans don't come for box scores. They come for stories. And this one had everything. A hero, a villain, a twist ending, and a question that no one could quite answer. Did Hartley deserve it? Again, nobody wants to see anyone injured. Let's be clear. But when the system fails to deliver justice, when a league refuses to review a play or issue a statement or even acknowledge the controversy, the public fills in the blanks themselves. And that's what happened here. The WNBA tried to move on quietly, tried to bury it under stats and highlight reels. But fans weren't having it, because this wasn't about one foul or one game. It was about the larger, louder issue that's been bubbling for years, officiating inconsistencies, lack of accountability, and the feeling that certain players get away with more than others. You know what would have stopped this from spiraling? A clear review, a statement from the league, a ruling on the play, something, anything, but instead, silence. And when the league stays quiet, the story takes on a life of its own. So now we have two injured players, one beloved, one controversial, one silent league office, and a fan base that's watching more closely than ever. Because what does this say to other players? That you can play recklessly as long as you don't get caught? That injuries are just part of the game. So we don't need to talk about how they happen? That perception doesn't matter if the league refuses to acknowledge it. The lack of action is the action. It tells players, we won't protect you. It tells fans, we're not going to address what you saw. And it tells the Bria Hartleys of the world, you're safe until you're not. And let's not forget, these injuries don't just sideline players. They sideline careers. They affect contracts, endorsements, entire trajectories. Sophie Cunningham's season was stolen from her. And if the roles had been reversed, if she had sent Hartley crashing to the ground and smirked on the way out, would the league have handled it the same? Ask yourself that. Because here's the truth. People aren't just mad about the play. They're mad about the double standards. About who gets protected, about how quickly the league moves when it wants to promote someone, and how slowly it moves when it's time to hold someone accountable. The players see it. The fans definitely see it. And the worst part, the league could have flipped this. They could have turned this into a conversation about player safety, about respect, about how intent and impact both matter in this sport. But they didn't. They missed it. So now, the WNBA doesn't just have an officiating problem. It has a credibility problem. And in a sport built on grit and trust and teamwork, that's the kind of issue that spreads fast. Sophie Cunningham will bounce back. No doubt. She's built for that. But Bria Hartley? She'll be back too. But the question is, what version of her reputation will return? Because fans don't forget. Players don't forget. And the smirk? That's etched in memory now. That moment will follow her for the rest of her career. Because in sports, you don't just play the game. You write your legacy with every move you make. Every foul. Every stare. Every response. And when you choose ego over empathy, When you smile while someone else lies on the floor, that's your moment. And whether it was misread or misunderstood, that doesn't matter anymore. Because in the WNBA, perception is the fourth quarter. And this time, Sophie Cunningham didn't just win the moral victory. She walked away as a symbol of class, while Hartley hobbled off as a cautionary tale. Now, the league has to ask itself, how many more moments like this can afford to ignore? Because one day, it won't just be the fans demanding answers. It'll be, let's keep it real, this whole situation, it's not just a messy moment in an otherwise clean game. It's a mirror being held up to the WNBA. And the reflection staring back is not pretty. The Sophie Cunningham, Bria Hartley saga didn't just divide fans. It exposed everything that's been bubbling under the surface for years. The officiating inconsistencies, the league's allergy to accountability, the way perception can be weaponized, and how silence on the top can echo louder than any whistle on the court. You can't not feel the weight of this thing. Because when Sophie Cunningham went down, clutching her knee, the pain etched across her face, it wasn't just about a torn MCL. It was about what happened after. Or more accurately, what didn't happen. Where was the review? Where was the outrage from officials, from commentators, from the league office? Nowhere. Instead, we got still silence and a viral photo of Bria Hartley walking away like it was just another Tuesday, wearing that now infamous expression that practically dared the internet to drag her. And drag her they did. Fans were relentless. People weren't just mad, they were betrayed. Because when you love a league as much as WNBA fans do, when you defend it, promote it, fight for respect, you expect that same energy to be reflected back in how the league protects its own. And this time, that protection was noticeably, painfully absent. But the second Bria Hartley went down, that's when the discourse shifted. Because now it wasn't just dirty play versus unlucky injury. It became something else, something poetic, something cosmic. Karma. It was like the entire narrative folded in on itself and regenerated in the most dramatic, telenovela-style twist you could imagine. Cunningham's injury sparked fury. Hartley's injury sparked closure. Or, at least, a sense of poetic balance. And again, no one roots for injuries. But when you're watching a league that refuses to act, that sidesteps conflict to preserve its image, you start looking for anything that feels like justice. And when you see the player who walked away smiling now with the same type of injury, you can't help but wonder, is this the only justice this league is capable of delivering? Let that sit for a moment. Because it's not just fans wondering that. You think the players aren't talking about it in group chats? You think coaches aren't texting each other, saying, "Yo, did you see that? Still no fine? No review?" Really, there's a reason the story won't die. It's not just about who was right and who was wrong. It's about the void, the vacuum that gets created when leadership doesn't lead. And that vacuum, it's been filled by fans, by media, by a growing unease among players who are sick of pretending everything's okay when it clearly isn't. Look at how quickly Sophie Cunningham became the symbol of grace. It's not just because she handled the injury with poise. It's because she didn't lash out. She didn't give anyone a soundbite. She played it cool, but everyone knew what she was thinking. And in a weird way, that silence, it hit harder. You didn't need her to say Hartley was reckless. You saw it in the way the league didn't step in. You saw it in the slow-motion replays. You saw it in the firestorm online. And when Hartley went down, you saw the full arc complete itself. Like the basketball gods couldn't wait for the league to issue a punishment, so they just handled it themselves. And now both players are out. But only one of them walks away with her reputation intact. Only one of them walks away with the admiration of fans, the support of teammates, and the bittersweet badge of being the bigger person. The other? She's got a new chapter in her legacy, and it's not a flattering one. And here's the harsh truth. That's what happens when the league refuses to speak. You let perception write the story for you. You let social media decide who's the villain and who's the victim. You let fans decide what justice looks like, because you didn't show them any. The WNBA has been fighting for years to be taken seriously. And in many ways, it's working. The talent is undeniable. The rivalries are heating up. The ratings are climbing. But this This was a crack in the foundation. Because if the league doesn't protect its players, what is it protecting? Image? Sponsorships? The illusion of professionalism? And let's talk about professionalism. Because if we're being honest, Sophie Cunningham outclassed everyone involved. Not just Hartley, not just the officials, but the league itself. She stayed above the drama while the league watched the drama spiral and chose to do absolutely nothing. She became the face of sportsmanship, and she didn't even ask for it. And Hartley? Her silence hit differently. Not stoic, not dignified, but empty, cold, like she didn't understand why people were mad. Like the whole thing was an overreaction. Whether it was or not, doesn't even matter anymore. The narrative is locked in, and now the league is stuck with it. Because let's be real, the next time Bria Hartley steps onto court, if she does, there will be boos. There will be tension. There will be questions. And it won't just be about how she plays. It'll be about how she carries herself. Every glance, every foul, every interaction. Her image has changed. That's the power of one moment. And the power of a league's refusal to shape the story when it had the chance. This wasn't just a PR failure. It was a moral one. Because moments like these are tests. You either show the world what you stand for, or you stand back and watch as chaos defines you. And the WNBA stood back. They let fans create the narrative, and now they're stuck with it. They let Sophie Cunningham take the hit, literally and metaphorically, and left her to carry the weight of her own story. They let Bria Hartley walk away from controversy without a word, and now her name is synonymous with recklessness, whether fair or not. They let an injury become an indictment. And the saddest part? It didn't have to be like this. It could have been a conversation, a teachable moment, a chance to reset the tone on players' safety, accountability, and how we treat each other in the heat of competition. Instead, it's a ghost story, one that will haunt this season, this league, and these players long after the final buzzer sounds. So what's next? Does the league finally step up and say something? Will they pretend none of it happened? Will they protect the next Sophie Cunningham? Or will they keep letting karma do all the work? Only time will tell. But here's what we do know. In a league that claims to be built on sisterhood, solidarity, and strength, this incident showed just how fragile that foundation can be when no one's willing to speak. And while both Sophie Cunningham and Bria Hartley will eventually heal, knees brace, ligaments regrow, tendons stabilize, what's broken here isn't physical. It's trust. And no rehab program in the world can fix that.